POV. I am not black.
Even myself, when I left, and many times that I've left, and I've been offered to stay there on the other side many times, and I knew that means that the physical body dies. That's the point of no return.
The Way of Will John.
People, what's happening? We got a special guest here today, Darius J Wright. Darius, what's up, man?
How you doing? Thanks for having me.
I'm doing good. A lot to get through today. You're a very interesting character. Why don't you introduce yourself and let us know who you are and what you're about and what you're doing and all that?
Yeah, so for those people that don't know who I am and what I do, I specialize in out-of-body experiences. Now, I say out-of-body experiences because that's what people know it to be, but it's not necessarily what you think an out-of-body is. A lot of people, when they look at out-of-body experiences, they think of astral projection, and it has nothing to do with that. And I've stated before in some of the previous talks that I have with other people, is that when you compare an out-of-body state to an astral projection, it's like child's toys in comparison. An out-of-body state, the way that I do it, is no different from a near-death experience, but it's a near-death experience controlled. When you die, the soul leaves the body 100%, and you're fully conscious and present on the other side. That is accessing all things. It's accessing the records, the nature of reality, and what we really are. So when you shut down the body in a controlled state, it is no different from a near-death. And what you access is no different from when you leave this realm entirely. And this is very scary for a lot of people when they do this, because shutting down the body to such an extreme state controlled feels like you're dying every single time. But what you get access to when you get rid of the fear is everything that I've stated already. You get access to records, the true nature of everything, because all is available to all souls here who have the willingness and desire to access it.
So this, for someone who, I have, let's say, an introduction into this subject. For someone who's coming up on this right now, they're going to be saying what? Like the materialist, worldview is what dominates society currently. So even there, can you give us an understanding? And it probably leads to something that I want to understand even from first. Why don't you break down reality for us first? Just in an understanding of when you say shut down the body, stop your breath, just close your eyes, go to sleep. What exactly do you mean?
Yeah. So to go back to your original statement that you made, is that materialistic thing. So this could be way out there for people, is because a lot of people are underneath the misconception that the universe dictates consciousness. And when you believe this, you believe that you are just the body, and when you die, you don't go on existing. But the universe does not dictate consciousness. Your consciousness dictates the universe, because you never die, you live on forever, and you will inevitably figure this out, whether if it's within this time frame that you're living or when the body dies and you cross over. So what I'm saying and what I'm accessing is everybody has the ability to access the unseen. When you leave your body, the unseen becomes seen to you. The nature of who we are, what we are, where we are, is all available to you. And so it's not necessarily like a mystical thing, because what you're seeing is what was always present and where you came from, right? And because we're here, you forget that due to the amnesia and also the nature of where we are. And the nature of reality is quite an in-depth topic, because to go into the nature of reality goes into absolutely everything. That is understanding what this place is, your thoughts, how your thoughts manifest, dimensional spaces within this realm. I do have a slide that I typically share, if you want me to share that. Just
Please do. Please do. Yeah. I've seen it before when you were speaking. I think it would be very helpful.
Yeah, it's Same stuff, but it just gives people a
Yeah.
better understanding of what I'm talking about. What I'm going to show you here, what you're seeing here is 3 images. And this is the realm or the construct that we live within. When you view or have been viewing where we live in the way that NASA tells you where we've been living, it's nothing the way it is. It actually is on the other side. When you are over on the other side, like I said before, everything is visible to you. We live within a construct, and this construct has realms, and those realms have dimensional spaces. So when you are out of your body and you're over on the other side, the image on the left here is essentially the construct, right? This is what it's viewed as the Godhead when you are completely out of what people call earth, right? Which this is just the earthly realm, which is an immovable, it's a fixed object. A lot of the things too, I want to say this as well, a lot of the things too that's written about in the religious texts, even though a lot of the religious texts are distorted now, are true in a lot of ways. And I say they're distorted because then they're filled with lies that get individuals and souls to not step into their fullest expression of self and power. The image in the middle here is showing you the realms. So these realms, in this construct that we have a total of 12 realms, right? So realms here are within this construct. On the image on the right are the dimensional spaces. Now the realms, the best way to understand the realms is realm 1, the middle image there. Realm 1 is essentially the earthly realm. That's where we are, what people call earth. Realm 2 is another realm. Realm 3, 4, 5 is actually the heavenly realms. And all of those realms are contained within the construct of what you see on the image on the left. Now, the image on the right is just something to give you a visualization of when I say dimensional spaces. So dimensional spaces there could be hundreds of thousands, if not million dimensional spaces within a single realm within this construct. And those dimensional spaces are created through thought forms. So what you think materializes a dimensional space within this realm that can be accessed when you leave the body. There's many times that I have left my body where I was able to view individuals' thoughts, but their thoughts were physical, because when you leave your body, it is more physical and more dense than your physical body. So when you're interacting with and seeing individual thoughts, you could say that you're reading someone's mind, but you're actually in it, touching it, tasting it, feeling it. You're feeling their emotion in that creation. These 3 images here is just to give you like I said, a visualization of what the construct of what you are living within, right? These 3 images here is what it looks like. These are the best ones, the images that I could find. It's not exactly, but they are the best ones that show you when you are out of the earthly realm, the construct, what it looks like viewing it from the outside. This is also where you get, like I said before, a lot of the stuff related to what we are told to believe. Space is not really space the way that people say space is. And what's quite amazing is when you leave the body and you see this, there's a difference between hearing something from somebody else and seeing it for yourself. When you see it for yourself, you see it and you know it. It's 100% knowing to you what's real, right? When people say that we live within a ball, that is true. But this place is immovable, it is fixed, and it does have a firmament above it and a dome. This is where you get the core. The earthly realm does have a core, but it actually is a projection of a map on the moon as well. I mean, this is where we're getting pretty deep in topics, which may lose a couple of people. Now, to even illustrate this even further, right, to give you not just metaphysical Darius's experiences from the other side, to show you here, this is a video, right? When people think of comets and shooting, some anyways, not all, but some comets, some shooting stars, you'll see that the stars are fixed within the firmament above us, right? And I'll play this video here. when you think that space is moving, that the stars were rotating in space, that's not true. And it's not how it's viewed on the other side. Everything, the stars are dimensional, are access points in dimensional spaces. This is where you even go into, this could go really deep, but as I said before, what people call the black sun, the core, is actually projecting a map on the moon of the earthly realm. And this is where you'll see here. You need to think about mirror as a projection. And when you flip the moon in reverse, you'll see that it holds an entire map of the realm that we live within. Has all the continents, everything's there. And this is not just, like I said, I want to give you guys actual things that you could see visually and you could do for yourself. But when you're out of your body and you're accessing the other side, all this is available to you and all this is visible and seen for what it really is. I know a lot of people may not like to hear truth because it's harder for someone to tell you you've been lied to your entire life when truth is finally revealed to you. The moon is an entire mapping system of the realm that we live within, and also the realm that's pretty much cut off from us. There's other land masses. It's not just Australia, America, and all the continents that they tell you that is here. And you can access these when you're out of your body and see it. When people want to look at, get a better visualization of constructs, these are some images here that you could visually look at to get a better understanding, like seeing it. When you see something as I talk, sometimes it just clicks. The image on the left is essentially the construct of what I was showing in the beginning, but a single construct has multi-dimensional spaces and realms within a single construct. The one that we're in has 12, right? This is also where it goes into all the ancient civilizations have known about this. A lot of the history, this is what I said before, in the ancient texts, a lot of the texts are actually true, but they hold a lot of distortions because a lot of the texts and truth of the records have been destroyed within this realm. This is where you get the reset of things. This is where you get the giants and all those things. That was all here, but it has been wiped, the records. And so there's still, when you read books or you go into that, you could still find some truth, right? And it's still there. But when you leave your body and you access the other side, you access the records because all things, everything is available to all of us. That's all the information. Nothing is never truly lost. And as you can see here, the Mayans, the Egyptians, the Romans, the Hebrews, Greeks, all knew about the nature of the reality that we live in. The only thing that's new here in the indoctrination is NASA. When you begin to also see the constructs from the other side, there are entrance and exit portals as well for entering and exiting the realm that we live within. Like I said, these are just images that I could find that give a close relationship to that which I'm talking about. If people haven't really watched a lot of my work, it's going to be I'm very cautious anymore with how and I know even that may have went over a lot of people's heads or went into a lot of belief systems that are still battling and stuff, So sometimes I'm careful with things that I share. But the thing is, when you, like I stated before, when you leave your body, you are not, it's not a mystical, airy-fairy thing. That's one of the biggest things that shocked the hell out of me when I left my body, and I continue to do it. I actually could do it controlled. I leave my body if it's a bad month, it's twice a month, but it's typically every single week. And I can do it every single day, but that tends to fry out my central nervous system, right? Because your soul is connected through the central nervous system, the whole meridian system. And this is where it goes into the health of the body as well, because when you're accessing information, it's not that the soul cannot maintain all that information, but when you bring it within the body, it could fry it out, just like a computer. If you download too much information all at once in the computer will start to bog down and get slow. It's the same thing with your physical body. So that's where the health is applied as well with us. But when you leave, right, it is more physical and it is more dense than having a physical body. Your soul is more physical than your physical body. And it's all the pleasures of physicality with no limitation. So when you're over on the other side, you could do as you wish, access all things, and you are still in physicality.
So, okay, I have tons of questions I have already. And yeah, for some people, it may have gone over with me with some experience within this subject. Not really, right? Consciousness is fundamental. The powers that be may, or ancient societies most definitely understood more about the nature of reality than we're being led to believe, that they weren't just farmers running around, with axes and, so I'm trying to decide where to take it, but I kind of want to understand even better how you're doing this, right? So let me take a step back. A lot of the people that are going to be watching this first are athletes, right? They're athletes that are doing stuff, but they're curious. They're curious about the nature of reality. We've had guys on to talk about and discuss these sorts of things, from Dean Radin, to Tom Campbell, all sorts of guys who have experienced things like this, or it's either studying, the nature of reality. And to give someone an even better understanding of how you're accessing this, it would be really cool if, and I guess I'll have to ask you, if you think it's okay, and I kind of already know what you're going to say, for everyone to do this or to train to do this. Or could you give us did it start spontaneously at first for you, and then you decided to get it under control and developed a method of how you could do it? And can that method be taught for other people to access and do the same thing?
The answer is yes. Right. So it's this happened to me out of nowhere. Right. I started to wake up in sleep paralysis all the time as a kid. And I have my childhood stories as a kid is pretty deep, but I won't get into that today. But to make it short and direct to you, is that sleep paralysis was happening to me at a young age, and I had no idea what it was. All right. I always thought that when you're in sleep paralysis, people that experience it, they think that they are dying, right? Because that's what it feels like. You cannot breathe, you can't move, you're completely paralyzed, right? And it wasn't until I started to get rid of the fears when I realized that the sleep paralysis is actually a gateway for you to exit the body 100% and leave. And so over the years of being in fear around it, and then also getting it underneath control, my emotions underneath control, I was able to pop out every single time successfully. And in the method that I use is it's not in depth. It's pretty simple. And it's stuff that I teach people to do. Like I said, I've taught people how to do this, and they have done it successfully. Right. But when you're in sleep paralysis, to give you a simplified version of it, when you're in sleep paralysis, what your brainwave, right, is in delta typically, right? So you're in deep, deep sleep. When you're in deep sleep, your magnetic field of the body is pretty much shut down to a very, very high degree, right? And at that point, if you know what you're doing, you could pop out of your body every single time. So you have sleep cycles, right? And this is the stuff that I started to look at to try to actually get information of not just I'm doing this, but actually, well, how am I doing this? What's actually taking place in the physical body? Every 90 minutes, when you go to sleep, your body typically enters delta deep sleep. Now, if you could time it correctly through a method the method that I teach, if you time it correctly, you could be awake and aware when your body is completely shut down. And it's foreign for people to feel this, because when their body's shut down, they're asleep. They're not consciously aware of it, right? But when you are aware, when you're in that state of sleep paralysis through timing the sleep cycles, you will 100% feel like you're dying. Your body will enter sleep paralysis. And if you get rid of the fear of death and get rid of the fear of a lot of things, you will begin to exit your body and you will leave. And when you exit your body, you will stand up. And when you stand up, you'll look back, you'll look at your bed, and you'll see your body sleeping on the bed. But the interesting thing too is that when you look at your soul, your hands, the body that you're within, Your soul holds a temporary imprint of your physical body, so it's going to look exactly the same. Not only exactly the same, but it's going to be physical and dense. It's going to be more real than the body that you just left. And this is instantly when you experience that, there's a thing that shifts within you that instantly you realize that you live on forever and consciousness exists outside of the body. And when you get a taste of that for the first time, it's almost like getting a taste of anything that's I don't know, good for you or amazing. Feels good, right? When you get a taste of that, there's a desire for more. And that's what it was like for me. I want more, I want more, I want more. And I kept on pushing and I kept on pushing and I kept on accessing more. I got access to the records, I got access seeing the nature of reality, actually leaving this construct completely and viewing it from the Godhead, right? I was also able to view, like I said before, private thoughts, because right now we are in such a limited frequency. These bodies are in a limited frequency of accessing the things that are always present in there. When you take the soul out, you are accessing and you're seeing all things. All frequencies are available to you. That's including thought forms.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, I would even go further in depth, but I just want to add something that is that could shed some light on the discussion in a whole. At 16, like I said just before we got on, I was also experiencing sleep paralysis. The thing that's interesting, and obviously my journey, it took me until 27, I think, till I had some sort of understanding of what. I mean, I won't get into my story as well, just to say that during sleep paralysis, I didn't have any of the fear that people speak about. I had none of it. I had some confusion and some bewilderment, and but I had no fear as to say what. At the same time, I did have a bit of, let's say, tension. Like, you know, it's like walking in the middle of a forest, I guess I could say, and you kind of hear a noise, and you have that little switch there between the what was that noise? I could freak out, or like, oh, it's just a noise, like, right? And like you said, you had to master your emotions, kind of do that stuff, and so I'm quite sure that when I started to have a better understanding and control of things, it was later in quotation marks in life, because I had a better control of my emotions. By that point, I'd been a meditator, and that sort of practice aided me in trying to access different levels of, let's say, consciousness or different realms in my search for trying to figure out what was going on. And a lot of the issues that I had when I was learning this in my 20s was first getting over the fact that any of this was real, right? And that's what I want to discuss here just for 1 second. And is I remember actually having to go and take the computer and search for stuff. I have no idea what I typed in. I got on this other stuff, and when I realized that people were like actually talking about this, actually layering things out, actually discussing stuff, and that there was some ancient works on this stuff, my mind was blown. That so you mean it's real? And I had those experiences that you're talking about when you're outside of the body and you experience something, and you know that you are not your flesh, and yet you are not your body, right? You can't tell anyone this. If you experience it, and there's this thing that is the knowing, and other things can happen when you can just know things, and the word know is even incorrect. You feel, right? I mean, I have a kind of a lack of words. You feel and know at the same time, and you know that you're right, what you're experiencing. And so, because I had to get over just what is the current understanding of reality, I kind of want to ask you about how we are in this place in society right now where, do you believe that it's being controlled and hidden and kept away? If so, who and why?
Well, that's a loaded question that could go into two different ways, and depending, like, all right, I'm always going to bring this back to the truth of how it was presented to me on the other side, right? But are there forces trying to prevent access to these things? Absolutely, right? Because that's the whole point of controlling the soul here. Why do you think there's so much fear here? Because fear is controlling the soul, suppression of information, and accessing the things that we all have the right to access. Now, the biggest fear of the ones that control this place is the souls actually truly seeing things for what they really are. Because when you wake up to the other side, this is something that my uncle has said to me. He's passed, and through leaving my body, I've accessed dead relatives and stuff like that to also have contact with them and communication. Something that he shared with me when I was out of my body and accessing the other side is that he said what's the most important thing here is what they call the great work, which is waking people up to the other side. Because when they wake up to here, which is the eternal aspect of each soul, they wake up to everything, because everything's available to you when you start to wake up to the true nature of the true universe, of who you are, what we really are. And so when you look at the suppression of information, truth, anyways, the suppression of awakening the dormant abilities within the physical body, and they do that through many things. They do that through medicine, right? I'll just say that. Through a lot of different ways, they suppress the body from decoding the information. Because, like I said before, everybody has a body and access to all things, just like everybody. Let's just say that your body's a computer, so everybody has access to the internet. So if you want to control and limit the access of information of everybody having access to the internet through the computer, then you would start to self-sabotage and limit certain aspects of the hardware within the computer. So even though it has access, it can't really access it in the way that it truly is meant to access it. You see what I mean?
Yeah. But my question, sorry to cut you off, is what do they gain? And rather than keep it, if you don't want to, I mean, I understand if you don't want to name specific people who we've already thrown NASA, and I know me personally, I don't know enough about this because it's been my understanding of, I just kind of don't look in that direction. I focus on, well, if you can spread that sort of knowledge and news and give people an opportunity to understand those things, they will get there. And me, myself, I just kind of focus on, well, I know that this is real and I know I can do X, Y, and Z. So the best way to spread some of that is to be it, right? But if you could, then like, what do you gain? What does someone on this side, over here on Earth, gain from having that control? Does it move the masses in the way that they want, or would they have no control, power, money? What is the whole point? Why even try and stop someone?
When people wake up to understand who we really are, then when you control souls, the amount of souls that you have here, you have unlimited potential of access of energy, information, data. Yeah.
Okay. Then, so to move it from this, maybe the powers at B, if we kind of take it back to the ancient world, what they knew, how life was, was their relationship to reality and consciousness completely different from what we're experiencing now? How do we deal with the stories we get from them and all of that?
So when you look into the records that I've looked into when out of my body, right? And like I said before, a lot of the texts, a lot of the religions and stuff like that have truth, a lot of truth in them. Like I said before, not all is true. It's like a little bit of truth. You give them 20% truth and then 80% lie, lead them down a path of self-sabotage, all that stuff, right?
Could you give us a little bit of an example?
Yeah,
maybe?
Yeah.
Something that, yeah.
So
okay.
when you look into, let's just say, the halls of Amente is a record of a point in time within this realm, which was also a point in time of the pyramids and stuff like that. You look back into those records, the physical body and the people that they were, they knew all things. They knew the nature of where things were, and they had all of the capabilities within the physical body of that which you have the capability to do on the other side, which is no limitation, right? This is where you have the shape shifting between different species within the physical body, because you were able to shift and change the way that you wanted to look and your soul wanted to express itself. Things were created through thoughts. It was ultimate expression of their soul's divinity within physical density. That was the time frame. That's an example of the time frame here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But to go back to your original question, like a question, which is like the bad and stuff like that, because then I also want to revert it back to what I've been told as well, so that it's not necessarily all doom and gloom and stuff like that. All right. This realm in particular, right? And I'm just going to say it how it is. And if it goes on deaf's ears, and it doesn't really matter. At least someone will hear it. This realm was originally created to experience that which you are not. This realm, this what we're in right now, was the unexperienced on the other side. So that's why there's a lot of souls here to experience the unexperienced. Not all souls chose to came here, but the ones that have experienced the unexperienced, the extremes, right? And in that very thing, we are experiencing that which we are not. You also had to have certain roles playing out of the bad guys, right? You see what I mean?
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, there really is no such thing as a good or bad thing. It's just an experience. And that experience gives you a certain perceptional wisdom that could have not been birthed unless it was experienced.
And so I completely understand what you're saying. What I'm even hung up on, which I find interesting for a lot of people, is that one of the most and greatest philosophical questions that we continue to turn back to is the truth of, is there goodness and is there evil, right? Is there a true good and a true evil, right? And we live in a time now where it's tough for people to understand, possibly, where they take their morals from. We can't be said to have taken our morals from the Bible or church or any of these things. So when people are looking for a moral compass on where to go and what to do, and to hear there's no good or bad, there's just an experience. How come I don't choose to do something bad? How come it feels bad to do something bad? Is that conditioning, or should I? You see where I'm going with this?
I do. Yeah. Because in a sense, this is why I said that question is a loaded question that goes in two different ways, and I understand both of the viewpoints, but also I want to make sure that I'm giving both one of the higher, like the things that have been told for me from outside, which may not make sense here, because in a sense it doesn't, because like I said before, this realm is so distorted. In this realm, when you're over on the other side, you cannot bend another soul's will. You cannot take advantage or bend that soul's will, right? You can't do it, but here you can. See what I mean? This is the extreme. You see? So when we are in a realm that is to experience that what you are not, right? With that very statement, you have within physical density the ability to control not the soul, but the physical body, all those things, right? But when the soul leaves and accesses outside of this realm completely, there's no controlling that soul.
With that in mind, then how does one find, let's say, life purpose? If some people didn't come here and want to come here, does someone have a life purpose? Do we all, or do we make that ourselves? Is there a concrete, real answer for that?
Yeah. So when you before you have come in here, you've agreed to come in here, right? That's the memory that I've been shown of myself, even though people can't. Even myself, when I left, and many times that I've left, and I've been offered to stay there on the other side many times, and I knew that means that the physical body dies. That's the point of no return. And every single time, my soul desires to come back, and not every soul desires to come back. Some people do leave, and that's completely fine. but there are certain things that your soul wants to do here, or it's the reason why you've come here to begin with. A lot of people think too, when you're over there, for some reason, you don't have this sense of emotion, anger, or expression, extreme expression. You do. That's the reason why a lot of souls have come here, just due to essentially irritation, yeah, of what was taking place. Now, when souls choose to experience something, and to answer the question, how do you find your path? It's easy to find your path when you start fully expressing yourself honestly and completely. And the reason why people don't do that, and when you really think about it, is because they're afraid of being judged. So when people cross over to the other side, you hear a lot of near death people cross over to the other side. The reason why they say they were bathed in unconditional love, it's not necessarily that they were bathed in unconditional love the way that they think. It's because they were not being judged for their soul expression. There is no judgment, because you cannot have unconditional love with a judgment. So when you go through your life here and trying to figure out your purpose and what you're supposed to do, it's tuning into your intuition, the thing that people shut down, the instinct of what feels good. Because what feels good, like you said before, well, why don't I just do something that feels bad naturally? Because naturally you're not tuning into your soul's fullest expression of who you are. Otherwise, that's why you feel different, right? So when you tune into that, you just do that, you'll start walking in a path of doing things that may not even make sense to you, but you're doing it based off your soul's integrity, walking in integrity. Yeah.
So then what about, or what to think of the concept of karma that we've derived?
No, there's no karma. You you cannot have.
That's
There's
controversial now for people.
Yeah, I know.
I like the way you said it though.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
It's and this is the thing, right? I'm not necessarily here to be liked. I'm just here to share the truth of what it is from the other side. And who that reaches, who it doesn't really matter to me, as long as it reaches the people that it's supposed to. Karma, no, there's no such thing as karma. That is a great way to put a soul into fear of constantly thinking that they're going to be looped forever, for eternity, all those things, right? You need to deal with this, deal with that. There is no judgment on the other side. The very fact of karma means that there's a judgment on the other side of some form. You are the only one that judges yourself. The unforgivable sin is a sin that you cannot forgive yourself for. And there's no one when you leave on the other side that is there to judge you for your actions or what you have done here. You judge yourself because you access all things again. You remember all things again. You're able to view your actions from your, you could say, higher perspective. And you are the ultimate judger. There's no karma or any of that stuff, which then is going to put you into eternal damnation and any of that. That's bull.
Right. I mean, at its core, right? I think that most people intuitively feel that there might be something off with that. However, the conditioning is strong, right? I mean, the way things are and the way things are set now, it's incredibly strong and incredibly hard for people to kind of break out of that.
Well, let me ask you this. Just ask you this, so that most importantly, people could ask this to themselves. How could you have unconditional love with a judgment?
Yeah, it's tough to put them both together. They seem incompatible, right? Just
they go hand in hand.
If it's unconditional, then
yeah.
you can't. Yeah. You can't.
It's almost
you can't
like
judge me for what it is.
Yeah, it's almost like you cannot have ultimate expression of freedom with a limitation, just like you cannot have unconditional love with a judgment. They go hand in hand. And
Right.
those are actually the unchangeable and unbreakable laws of the universe, which never change based off people's perceptions. People have a lot of perceptual truth, and that's what they're basing their reality on, based on their perception, which changes moment to moment. And even right now, the people that have listened thus far to this video, their perception would have changed just a fraction or a lot, doesn't matter. But the very fact that the perception has changed, their truth has changed. There are unbreakable and unchangeable things in this universe that will never change regardless of how you feel.
And like you said, that you've changed the perception, and that you, whether it's small or little, I mean, that's the goal. That's a partial goal, let's say, of the podcast in and of itself. I mean, I am not shy about telling people when they ask me to have this person on, that person on, the podcast is not for them. The podcast is for me to learn, and that's it. I hope that you learn something more, and I hope that it changes the way that you look at reality. And that's why we have people, especially interesting people like you, on. And I want to turn slightly hard turn left to talk about something that I also find fascinating. Are you aware of who Tom Campbell is?
Yeah, I've looked at him before. So someone actually forwarded me a video of him.
Okay. And we had him on, and so he's a guy who he's a consciousness researcher and a former NASA physicist also. And I asked him a question about time travel. And so his answer was interesting. I'm curious for you. Can a human time travel, whether that be through consciousness, can they affect the future or the past, their own past, or the past for humanity at large? What have you found, or what do you understand about time travel just in general?
Well, yes, it's true. It's not necessarily, it wasn't presented to me as time travel, but how they view time on the other side is all happening all at once, right? So past, present, and future is in a state of all happening. And the best way, when I was out of my body, a female being came to me and she showed it to me this way, which was the best way to actually visualize it and see it. How we experience time here this is what she said, right? She had a deck of cards when I was out of my body on the other side. And she said, how you experience time here is in this fashion. She took the deck of cards, spread them all out on the table, and she said, you skip from this card to this card to this card to this card. It's event driven. Yeah. This. And she said, this is how we view time. She took all those cards, stacked them all together, and you look straight down and you could see all events, all things happening all at once. That's how it's accessed, even out of your body. There are things that I've accessed out of my body through personal stories of seeing things into just personal family in my life, right? Seeing them do something out of my body that was in a future event that I did not say anything, but I told other people. And it played out verbatim of what I saw, because all is happening. Like I said, when you leave the body, truly leave the body, and none of this dreaming, and because to be quite honest with you, a lot of the research that I've done, people just really don't know what they're talking about in terms of actually leaving. You know what I mean? Because when you properly
separate that. Yeah. Separate that astral projection, that lucid dreaming from what you're doing.
Exactly.
Because it seems like there's three. Because even within the astral projection and lucid dreaming, some people believe those two are the same.
No.
And so it leaves us with this, I don't know, can you explain that?
So a near-death experience and an out-of-body experience are like this. They are married together. Like I said, an out-of-body experience is a near-death experience controlled. But the dream and astral, particularly the dream, typically and mostly you're accessing your dimensional space, your field. So this is where you go into, you're accessing your thought forms, potential timelines. This is why sometimes when you're having a dream, you could end up seeing potential in your close circle, like family, relatives, potential future events taking place. And sometimes people experience this and they're like, oh, I saw this and into the future. And then a week or the day prior, that takes place because you're accessing your thoughts and potential time events within the dream space. That's what dreams are accessing, right? But when you are out of your body, you're not only accessing your individual field, but you're accessing everybody's individual fields. You're accessing even more than that, because you're accessing the realms, dimensional spaces, even outside the constructs, the records, right? So there is a difference of access of what you get depending on where you are. It's almost like, if you're only in the astral and dreaming space, you're just accessing your individual field stuff in dimensional spaces. And there is a totally bigger area of things that you could access, yeah, when you properly come out of the body.
One of the biggest buzzwords in the world right now is
Raw TV. I am not black.